Hey Christine, have you ever accidentally met a celebrity?
Well, not myself, but I have a story about my sister.
That'll do.
Nice, okay. Because she once met he's a YouTuber and we are both big fans of him and he's very funny, but he kind of like plays, or like, no, he is just an old grumpy man while he's like 35. But he like, his mentality and his personality is old. So,
Name drop him?
Tobias.
Okay. Just Tobias.
Something. I'm not sure what his last name is, but he's from the FOMO show and I love him. I love the FOMO show, it's really great. But he's like an old man, kind of. Like an old man in a young body.
Okay.
But he's really fun. And so the story is that my sister bumped into him at a festival and she loves him too. So she wanted a selfie with him, but she was a little bit tipsy. And and she was holding her phone like in selfie mode. But the phone was using the front camera. So she had to switch the camera to the selfie camera to make a picture of them together.
Okay.
But it didn't work because she kept pressing the button, but nothing happened. And Tobias is, like a little bit grumpy man. So he was like,
in real life as well.
Yeah, in real life as well. And he was like, so you gotta turn the camera. And my sister was trying, and it didn't work for a while. But then eventually it worked. But Tobias was already kind of grumpy. So the picture is of like my sister super happy and Tobias like.
But that works with his personality, right?
Yeah, that definitely works. But it would have been nicer if he was like in a happy smile or something in the picture, but he was like kind of annoyed by the whole thing that it didn't work, and he's just like with a grumpy face, like a half smile, half grumpy face. So that's great.
Well, that reminds me. Did you ever know the Instagram famous cat, Grumpy Cat?
Yeah, of course.
So this is kind of crazy, but she went on tour.
The cat.
What? And they brought her to London, and she was in basically like having an artist signing, except without the signing. This is not my story, by the way. So there was this huge queue outside of HMV in Oxford Street in London just to meet this cat. I had to queue for like 2 hours.
You went there?
I went.
Oh my god!
I went, and then I did get a pic with Grumpy Cat, but she does look very grumpy.
Yeah.
I look happy. I also, however, and this is my advice for your sister, I also took a picture of me looking grumpy with Grumpy Cat.
Nice.
So then it looks like we're both doing it for the character, although of course that was just her face. So maybe it's Tobias's face. Maybe that's just what he looks like.
No, he's really. If you watch the FOMO show, it's in Dutch, so you can't. But he looked like always a little bit whiny, but he's very funny. So.
Oh, bless.
Yeah.
And what did she do with that picture?
Nothing. She didn't even tell me that story for like years later. I had no idea.
Only until today when you were like, I need a story for this question. Sister, please help. And here she pulled through.
Yeah, she pulled through.
Amazing.
But what about you, Ciara? Have you ever accidentally met a celebrity?
Christine, I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite stories
in
my entire life because it's just so insane how it happened. So when I was, I think in my late teens, my family went on a holiday to New Orleans and we did a lot of cultural stuff. And one of the things we did was go to this museum all about New Orleans. And so there was like exhibitions about the carnival there, Mardi Gras, which is really popular. And that was the main bit that my family was interested in. But at that time, I was studying geography. And I was really interested in like natural disasters because it was something I was studying.
Yeah.
And so they had this whole exhibition on Hurricane Katrina and how much that affected New Orleans. And so my family was already done with this museum. They were like, let's go, time to get out of here. And I was like, no, I really need to see this exhibition. So I took like a full extra hour just going around and reading all of this. It was very, very interesting, but very harrowing as well, but fascinating. Anyway, so the whole point was we were about an hour later leaving this museum than we should have been. But eventually I'm finished, I grab my family and we exit the museum. And as we exit, this massive black Jeep pulls up on the square outside the museum, and these 2 bodyguards get out. And my dad is like, it looks like somebody famous is arriving. And then they open the back door of this Jeep and out steps this glamorous woman. And I'm like, I think that's Beyonce.
No.
Yeah, and my dad was like, who?
I love that.
But it was Beyonce.
That's so
just
cool.
like on the street in New Orleans. Apparently, I found out later that's where her sister was living. So maybe she was on a trip there. But the whole point was that in this square outside the museum, there was like a street band. And apparently she had like seen or heard them and decided to get out and go and greet the street band.
Oh, that's so cool.
We were also there.
Yeah.
So I'm like standing next to Beyonce while she's admiring this street band. The security guys made it very clear that you were not allowed to take a picture with her, but I do have pictures of her.
That's so cool.
So yeah, and she acknowledged my existence.
Oh my God.
Which is just amazing. So that's my story.
Yeah.
I accidentally met Beyonce, and that will be one of my fun facts until the day I die.
Nice. And when was this?
When I was in my late teens.
Yeah, you said. Okay,
so
cool. That's really cool.
I know. So yeah, there you go. That's my story.
Oh, nice, perfect. Because today we are chatting about supermodels in bank vestibules. Vestibules, is that a word?
It's a difficult word, but it is.
Vestibules, very angry cats, and a citywide blackout. Season 1, episode 7 of Friends.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to Friends of Friends, the ultimate Friends rewatch podcast. I'm Ciara Murphy.
And I'm Christine Schumacher, and we are back rewatching the entire Friends series.
Why? Well, number 1, because it's what Beyonce would want. And number 2, because of course we want to watch it with you.
So each week we'll be rewatching an episode of Friends, talking about it, sharing behind the scenes content, and discussing anything and everything about the show that shaped an entire generation. So, before we get into it, Ciara, if your week was an episode of Friends, what would it be called?
I think that I would call this week the one with the never-ending game.
Okay, that sounds very interesting.
I like how that's always your reaction.
I know, when you have like very
like,
cryptic titles.
Because I want the people to be excited, but I will share my story about this week. So I regularly attend a board games evening.
Oh, nice.
I like to socialize. I like to find new board games to play. I wouldn't call myself like a board game enthusiast, but once a month I can handle it, right? So I go along and they've got all of these board games and we're there like trying to decide what game should we play. And this guy comes up and he's like, we need 2 more players. I'm like, okay, perfect. What's the game? And he like explains it to me, but I'm looking around. I'm not really listening. And then I'm like, oh, how long is it likely to take? And he says, oh yeah, a regular game would be anywhere between 15 minutes to 2 hours.
Oh, that's quite a difference.
Well, it also turns out that I misheard. He said 50 minutes to 2 hours.
Oh.
I heard 15 and I was like, oh, well, because we're beginners, we won't know how to play and the game will last like 15 minutes, Christine, it was 4.5 hours.
Holy, which game was this?
You know what? I don't even know. I don't even know the name of the game. I should have checked it out before I told you this story. It was a Dungeons and Dragons style game.
Oh, fun.
And the game definitely had the word Baldur's Gate in it.
Oh, but that's a very well known.
That's a video game. Yeah, but this
yeah.
was like the board game version of it. And I will be honest with you, like it was fun. Like I got to be, I think I was a dwarf. I was a very angry dwarf. I was like 175 years old. I was very strong. I sold that sweet potatoes.
Oh.
And we basically, one of us was a traitor, thank God not me, because then the game would have lasted 10 minutes. I would have immediately died. But the rest of us were trying to like survive. And it took forever. So as I said, fun for the first like 3 hours.
And then
a bit draining for the remaining hour and a half.
I get that.
So yeah, if you like board games, definitely check that out. But just prepare yourself. That is your entire day gone.
Nice.
So there you go.
Nice. I'm not sure.
How about you, Christine? If your week was an episode of Friends, what would it be called?
Well, it will be very boring compared to you because my week will probably be called like the one with
The train.
No, not the train. The one with the kiki ha. No.
You brought that. I wasn't even gonna bring her up. You brought that upon yourself.
I know. Sorry, no. But my week would be called the one with the very, 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 very busy schedule.
Okay. I have a feeling that I'm pretty sure I have had an episode called that.
Yeah, I know.
Are you coming for my crown, Christine?
No.
Okay,
No.
well, we'll think of a different title for yours because that's definitely copyright infringement.
Oh, man.
But go ahead and tell me about your version of the very, 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 very busy schedule.
Well, it was just a very busy week because work was crazy and then I had a lot of stuff to do like next to work and just I'm glad that it's almost weekend and then I can work still.
You can work. No, you can rest, Christine.
I know, but I have this issue where even if I have time to rest or like if it's the weekend, I still have to do something useful. That's my curse.
Do you know what? I'm pretty sure this is the exact same thing I said
Yeah,
when
could
this
be.
was my
Oh,
episode.
right. I do remember it.
So once again, I hand this over to our listeners. Please, we beg you, listeners, please teach Christine and I how to relax because we clearly don't know how to do it. If you have, genuinely, if you have any tips about what you like to do when there's nothing to do, tell us, please.
I think I said to you, play a video game or something.
Well, maybe you should take your own advice, Christine.
I know, but I always have something to do. That's the issue. I can always come up with something that I can be useful for.
Okay, you know what? Just listeners, send in your best self-help tips.
Yeah.
Because clearly we both need it.
Or very good duct tape to close our duct tape our hands together so we cannot do anything.
Okay. Christine has a very interesting method of self-care, but you know what? If you want to suggest some, I don't know, skincare brands or cozy games to play, you can send them to me. I will read them on our Instagram.
Please, also me. I want them too.
On our Instagram at FOFPodOfficial or
through our email, which is FOFPodOfficial@gmail.com.
Well, you know what, Christine? I actually find recording this podcast to be very relaxing. So maybe we can just have a Zen hour of discussing
just say
today's
nothing.
episode.
Just hear our breathing. No, that's not doing that.
I don't think Christine quite understands the purpose of the podcast. We'll discuss that. Anyway, I'm ready for a very, very exciting and yet zen episode. How about you, Christine?
Yeah, I'm ready as well. So
let's get into it.
Let's go. This week we'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 7, the one with the Blackout. Originally aired on November 3rd, 1994, this episode was written by Jeff Ostroff and Mike Sikowitz and directed by James Burrows, our director.
Our director from last week. In case you haven't listened, you can find that out in last time's episode where we spoke about the director, James Burrows. But he is not making an appearance as one of the cast members in today's episode, but we do have a few extra guests. In addition to our regular cast, we have Larry Hankin as Mr. Heckles, Cosimo Fusco as Paolo, and Miss Jill Goodacre as herself. So Jill Goodacre is actually the third celebrity guest of the series so far, after Elliot Gould and Christina Pickles, who you may remember played Jack and Judy Geller in the one with the sonogram at the end. So we're getting the bigger stars. How exciting.
Yeah, and a quick Friends fact here, because you mentioned the one with the sonogram, and along with that episode and this episode, Ross, or David Schwimmer, received an Emmy nomination for this episode and the other one.
Only for those two episodes?
Yeah, that's the only two.
That's insanity. This is the first season, and poor David.
So his performance went down. Poor thing. No.
Oh wow! But I mean, fair play to him getting 2 Emmy nominations from the first 7 episodes.
That's impressive.
Wow, and all he's done is go, hi.
I know.
Well, I have another Friends fact for you. This is actually many of the cast's favourite episodes, including definitely Matthew Perry's favourite episode. So clearly one that we should be very excited about.
I'm very curious to see what will happen. And this might also be the reason why this episode is ranked at 8.9 out of 10 on IMDb. So
yeah, that's actually the highest of the whole season.
Yeah, that's
so. As you said, just like with David Schwimmer's acting, the whole season is just going to go downhill after
oh
this.
Man!
But yeah, 8.9 out of 10. That's a really, really high score. So I have some high hopes for today's episode.
Yeah, me too. So, Ciara, can you give us a brief overview of this episode?
But of course I can. So in today's episode, there is a blackout across the entire city. Chandler gets stuck in an ATM vestibule with Victoria's Secret model Jill Goodacre, and Ross, oh, it's happening. He attempts to tell Rachel his feelings for her.
Aww. Interesting.
So our episode begins today with the friends watching Phoebe begin an acoustic set at Central Park, only to get interrupted by a sudden blackout across New York City. Meanwhile, a lucky Chandler finds himself trapped at the ATM vestibule with...
Nice.
Jill Goodacre.
So first of all, I have no idea who Jill Goodacre is.
Never She's a Victoria's Secret model.
Yeah. Okay, I get that, but next to that, I've never heard of her, never seen her. Her face did not ring a bell in my head.
I think this is going to be something that happens to us throughout the course of this series because, these were big names 30 years ago.
Yeah, and
we weren't born.
No, we weren't alive.
So that might be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I loved the start of this episode.
Yeah.
I loved both of these mini scenes before the intro. The first scene I thought was so incredibly clever. They set it up. She's there with her guitar and she's like, I want to start with a song that it's about that moment when you suddenly realize what life is all about. And I was hooked. I was there on the edge of my seat. I was like, Phoebe, tell me. And just like, blackout. Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. But I was also like surprised that no one screamed or like no one was like, ooh, like, you know, if suddenly the light goes out, I'm like, what's going on? And
it's a blackout.
Yeah. But like, I do expect some people to be like, ooh, you know, screaming.
That's true. So that's because they were all just holding their breath for Phoebe's song.
Maybe.
They couldn't even let it out. But I do have another... Wow, we're smashing through these Friends facts. I have another one about the blackout itself.
Mm-hmm.
So really interestingly, the blackout is part of a collection. So there was a number of episodes, all aired of different shows, aired around this same... I think on the same evening of November 3rd, 1994, and all of them had a blackout in them.
That's weird.
So, the one in Friends is the result of an event seen in the Mad About You episode Pandora's Box, where Jamie causes a city-wide power blackout in New York City. The effects of this blackout are seen in the episode of Friends, which we're watching, and also in an episode of the short-lived NBC sitcom Madman of the People episode Birthday in the Big House. So there was
I love that name.
So the NBC folks, they decided that they were going to make an event.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was going to happen all across New York in these 3 different universes.
But then I would expect that to happen around like the 1st of April or something. Not November.
For a prank.
Yeah, for like a prank, you know, like a crossover, like a prank.
Did you never see those crossovers on like Disney Channel? Where
Yeah.
The Sweet Life of Hannah Montana on deck or whatever.
Yeah, that's also
This is their version.
Yeah, okay.
Super cute. I didn't know that there was all this lore behind them.
No.
So, interesting.
And I've never seen those other shows. Never heard of them.
Once again, before you were born.
Yeah, okay, true.
And less popular than Friends.
Yeah, true. So now we switch over to, of course, Chandler, who's stuck in the ATM vestibule. But I'm like, is that a thing that the doors close?
No.
Is that a mistake, or is that just for the plot? For this
I think
episode?
it's just for the plot. I did look this up. And apparently there's security measures which ensure that in the event of a power outage, that doesn't happen.
Oh, okay, good. Because otherwise, I was like thinking, like, why would they do that for like, if someone is planning to like steal something and then they blow up the ATM and then the power gets cut off and then the door closes, then you catch the robbers in the vestibule.
Ooh.
I have no idea, but then apparently it's not a thing. So
You really thought about that.
yeah, I really did. I really did.
Now I'm thinking, well, maybe Chandler is just really, really weak. And he tried the door, which was actually open this whole time. The blackout did not affect it. And he was just like, oopsie.
I want to stay in here.
Yeah. I thought it was really funny the way that they showed the difference in reaction between Chandler thinking that he's trapped in this vestibule and he's like, oh my god, this is the worst thing ever, and then realizing it's with a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Classic Chandler. Cute.
So anyway, back in Monica's apartment, the gang prepares for the blackout, setting themselves up with candles and wine, checking out how some of their neighbors, including ugly naked guys, are coping with the blackout.
Ugly naked guys, plural.
Did I say guys? Oh, sorry. There's one one neighbor.
Well, actually, maybe they're twins and they just like to be naked.
No, please no.
On a very altogether different
That would be
note.
worse.
Let me quickly segue away from that and say I'm gonna be like, I love this episode, it was so great, but I really liked also the beginning of this scene, and they show the establishing shots of the city and it's in darkness, and I think it really helps to set the scene because we don't just jump straight to Monica's apartment, but it shows that like, oh, this is happening everywhere. It's not just like the building, because remember previously we said maybe Central Park is in the same building as Monica's apartment, so maybe you could be led to believe that Chandler's an idiot and he got himself locked in an ATM vestibule, but also no, they clearly show like this is happening everywhere, so I thought that was really, really nice that they did that.
And they have many candles in there. So many.
Fire hazard.
Yeah, I know, like so many, like outside, inside, on the closet, on the floor, blah, 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 everywhere.
I have 2 candle comments.
Okay.
First of them is why did they need candles outside?
Yes, yeah, they have the moonlight.
They have the moonlight,
It
which,
was a full
as we
moon.
saw, was very, very illuminating.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no problem later in the episode of seeing the characters when they're outside. So I'm like,
Strange.
And the second one, did you see the tiny little pumpkin candle?
No, I didn't
Oh my
see
god,
it.
it was so cute, Grizzly.
Did you take a picture?
Yes.
No.
I'll share it on our social media.
Okay, cool.
I thought the candles were so cute, even though it was very, very clear that they were not providing the light that we can see in the episode. There was so much fake flickering light, so good stuff with the lights and sound team, I guess. But yeah, it really sets the atmosphere. I don't know have you ever had a night where you just like light a bunch of candles and you just chill?
I never
Christine
do.
never relaxes.
That's not my style, no, but that's the way to not enough lights to do like anything.
No, I know, you can still have other lights, that's permitted.
Oh, okay, then I do have like a lovely candle over there on my coffee table, which smells amazing.
What scent is it?
I have no idea, but it smells really good.
I need to know.
Yeah, you can after the episode.
I'll smell it later.
Yeah, you can smell
I'll
it
tell
later.
you next time. I actually, you know what? We were talking about being stressed and finding things to unstress. I recommend one of these. So actually, there's this whole like movement in Scandinavia called, I'm gonna get this so wrong, hygge, and it's basically, to you Dutchies, gezellig.
Gezellig.
It's that feeling, but they have like a whole. You make events out of it, and a hygge evening. I'm getting the Dutch there. That's not right.
I have no idea.
But you would light a bunch of candles. You get blankets. You'd like eat warm cinnamon rolls.
Ooh,
and just like cozy up with a book. And I start this winter. That's what I did. I planned some hygge nights with my friends, and it was wonderful. I really recommend it. And also, I love fairy lights. So anything to do with like fairy lights and candles. Yeah. Anyway, that's my advice for you. And clearly, the friends were just having a great time. A great hygge night.
Yeah.
Look, I've still got that Dutch teeth.
Yeah, they look like they have a really cozy night. But I did see something with my eagle eye. And there is a new mug in the kitchen.
Ooh.
Because Monica has like a very bright, it always catches my eye, a very bright smiley mug in her cabinet.
Yes, I remember that one.
And now she has a mummy one.
What's it? Like the Egyptian mummy?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I think that's way cooler.
Is it like the face or the...
Yeah, it's the face and then with like the toilet paper.
What?
Like wrapped.
Now I'm thinking that they just went to like a Halloween store because the pumpkin candle.
Oh, right.
And then a mummy mug.
But I did... I was thinking like, oh, maybe this was around Halloween or something. That they
November 3rd.
this.
Was
Yeah,
when it was
okay.
aired.
Oh, yeah, okay. But then later, we're not there yet. But then later, they're discussing Monica's birthday, and I looked up her birthday, and it was most likely in March.
Most likely.
Yeah, it's never really mentioned, but it's most likely, they say, in March, based on different things. I don't know.
But her birthday is not now, is it?
No. So that's why now would be March if it's like close to her birthday. So then it's weird that there are like Halloween stuff.
How do we know it's close to her birthday?
Because they are planning they are fake planning.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, look, her birthday could be 6 months away and they need to get planning. I mean, I would, honestly, if I was friends with Monica, I would plan way in advance.
Yeah,
because
okay,
that's the only way
maybe.
you're going to do something that she would enjoy, right?
Yeah, true.
No last minute planning as far as she is concerned. But one thing that I thought was interesting in this scene is Monica's on the phone to her mum, right? And her mum asks what she's wearing. And Monica's response is like, who am I going to meet in a blackout? An eligible looter?
Yeah.
Which firstly, brilliant. But also secondly, someone in this episode does meet someone in a blackout. So, Monica, don't be saying that. It could happen.
It's a prediction.
But that's the thing nowadays, you know, people are like, oh, I just sit at home all day. How am I going to meet someone if I never leave my bed? Well, here you go.
Yeah, and
a cat could come in your window and then you need to go and find its owner.
Yeah, or
honestly,
like your postman or your neighbor or...
Ugly naked guys.
Who knows? So many possibilities.
So many possibilities. So we continue on with the episode at the bank, where Chandler tries to figure out the best way to get his vestibule partner Jill Goodacre's attention. She offers him her phone to call someone, giving him a chance to establish contact with the group back home.
Ooh.
I really liked the staging in this scene. I really like every scene in this episode. But I thought it was really authentic. They have all like the receipts on the floor, and it really did give the vibe of being an ATM vestibule. Not that I have spent too much time in them myself.
No, I have no idea what they look like, to be honest. Do they still exist?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah? Oh,
Yeah.
I've never seen one. But it did look like kind of like grungy.
Grungy?
Because,
It is a New York ATM vestibule.
Yeah, okay, so maybe like hobos also sleep over there, who knows. But like the dirty walls and the paper and then the random gums everywhere,
Ooh,
like
yummy.
chewing gum, like yummy.
So last week we spoke about Matthew Perry's arm acting, and this week I have to give it to him. His face acting was phenomenal. This scene, I really enjoyed it, because obviously everything is going on in his internal monologue, but he's like acting it out with his face. It was so perfectly timed between what we as the viewer hear and how he is reacting to it. I love it when he starts dancing towards Jill, because that's what's going on in his head, only to realize that she can't hear his internal monologue.
It must look like very weird for her, like kind of creepy. Also the smiling and the whole thing.
So funny.
So funny.
Like brilliant. I'm good. You know what? Give this scene an Emmy.
Yeah.
David Schwimmer, I'm taking your Emmy nomination and I'm giving it to the ATM vestibule.
Nice.
And just like the dialogue as well, even though there was no dialogue, when Jill offers him the phone and she's like, would you like to call someone? And Chandler's like, yeah, about 300 guys I went to high school with.
Yeah, it's so funny. Jill should have heard that, you know. She would have loved him, but yeah, it's in his head, so it's not possible. But he's so funny. And also with when he calls the guys at the apartment, and then he I don't know how to describe it, like a weird code language with Joey.
Yeah, like a garbled, I think.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm trapped in an ATM.
You do a great impression.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Because I could understand you and I could understand Chandler, but I had no idea what Joey said.
That's the point.
Yeah, I probably, but I was like, I'm very curious to see like what he's going to say, or like what he said, because then Chandler of course replies with like that thought didn't enter my mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did he tell you? I want to know.
Look, this is exactly like, you remember a few episodes back when Alan called?
Yeah.
And he said something and we didn't get to hear that side of the conversation. And again, really, really well done. Like Joey just mumbling some nonsense and Chandler gets it. Oh.
Yeah, and then of course also repeating the phrase, I am trapped in an ATM vestibule with Jill Goodacre like 4 times. That was like such like comedy classic, like so funny, and very well done for this scene.
Very well done. Give it an Emmy.
Yeah, Emmy for Jill and Chandler.
For Jill.
Okay, no, Jill was mediocre, but
Brutal.
So anyway, back at Monica's apartment, the rest of the friends have a discussion on the weirdest place they have ever had sex, and Rachel confesses that hers was the foot of the bed. This leads to a conversation between her and Ross about how she wishes she had more excitement in her love life.
Can Ross and Monica please stop talking about their sex
I
lives?
know. They have no filter. Family... How do you say that? Like limitations or...
Yeah.
It's weird to talk about
Can
that.
they not? I get so uncomfortable with that. But you know what? Like, maybe I should be more open as a person.
No.
Be more close.
I don't want to know.
But look, my girl Phoebe, she's coming in there. She's saying the weirdest place she's had sex, Milwaukee. Yes. Let's not be any more specific than that. I've never been to Milwaukee, so maybe it is just generally weird.
It's in America.
It is.
No, yeah, I've never been there either. So yeah, maybe it's super weird. Maybe I have no idea. Phoebe's also weird. So
Friends of Friends road trip to Milwaukee.
Ooh, yes, let's do that.
You know what? If we have any listeners from Milwaukee, just send us a message telling us how weird Milwaukee is.
Yeah, please do.
At FOFPod official on Instagram. Or...
Oh, should I? Or through our email, which is foatpodofficial@gmail.com.
I just want one with the subject line, I am from Milwaukee, and no text in the rest of the message.
Then we're happy.
Anyway, speaking of all subject line, no body, Barry is boring. Yeah.
Oh, you're right, yeah. About
the foot of the bed.
Yeah.
You know what? Previously, I was Team Barry, but come on, Barry.
But yes, the foot of the bed, like, come on, be more creative than that. Just, I don't know.
Yeah, but the whole point of this scene is to suggest, like, Ross would be more passionate. Mm-hmm. Right? They have this whole conversation, and Ross is like, I see big passion in your future when he's talking to Rachel. And I'm like, from you? Because I look at Ross and I don't see big passion.
No, I see like a dorky dork. Sorry, Ross, but he was so dorky in this episode. In my opinion, at least.
All 7 episodes that we've watched.
Yeah, no, in previous episodes it was less bad, but in this one he looks really dorky, also because he's wearing the... Yeah, maybe I just don't like that. The turtleneck sweater. And it just looks like a little dorky, and his hair with the too much
but maybe
gel.
that's, they do say it's the nice guys who are,
Okay, sure. I have no idea. But like, and I was also thinking, because of course we discussed the switcheroo of the episodes, and I was thinking that happened here as well, maybe. Because in previous episodes, like Rachel is really, we discussed, like Rachel is really like starting to see Ross for like a nice guy. Yeah. But here she's like very distant and more like friendship, and I don't know, she felt much colder here than in previous episodes. I think that maybe the switcheroo also happened here,
I like how you say switcheroo.
Is that not a word?
Oh, it totally is.
Okay,
yeah, it's
cool.
Just fun to listen to.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, I mean, could be. We have to get the network. We have to get NBC on the line for our next episode so we can find out. But look, okay, Ross, he's a dork. Yes, we agree on that. But I have to say, he gives some good advice. They're talking about passion, and he says it's overrated. Eventually it kind of burns out, but hopefully what you're left with is trust, security, and in the case of my ex-wife, lesbianism. I don't know about the third one, but the first two...
he's wise in that way. He's definitely...
I believe it. And honestly, I think that's... I'm going off on a rant now, but I feel like that is genuinely something that people get wrong when they're younger and in relationships. True. Is you think that it's all of this passion and butterflies.
And then you lose the passion, and then they think like, oh, and then they break up.
Yeah.
Well,
because sometimes there is nothing more than like the lust and the butterflies. Mm-hmm. But a real relationship, which I'm sorry to say it, but I think Ross has the potential to have, is when you are left with the trust and the security and the comfort.
Yeah,
which,
true.
Ross, you're not, I don't see big passion from you, Ross, but I do see trust, security, and comfort.
That's so cute.
I gotta give it to him.
I love the little rant.
Thank you.
So, and then to finish up this little scene, there's one last thing I want to mention, because last time or the one before, I'm not sure, we discussed the picture in the back with the couple.
Oh yeah.
And now the picture has changed.
There's new people.
Yeah, but I think it's like a childhood picture of like someone or like two kids maybe. I'm not sure what it was, but at least the two people are gone. So they heard us and they thought like, oh, we should move the picture or something. No, but yeah, it has changed. So
see, now look, I was right about artwork changing.
Yeah.
I will die on this hill. The artwork in some episodes changed. But anyway, after Ross and Rachel's conversation, Joey tries to convince Ross that he needs to tell Rachel how he feels about her before he enters the dreaded friend zone.
Ooh,
Christine, friends fact.
Friends. Oh.
Ah,
no.
Do we have the same
Yeah,
friends fact?
I think so.
No, you do it. You take it.
Okay, I will tell you the friends fact, and you tell me if you had the same one. The phrase "friend zone" was popularized by Friends.
What a surprise, Christine.
You had to say.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes, I did not know that.
No, me neither.
I'm going to be honest with you. I never thought before about like the origins of the term friend zone, but that's so insane that it came from this episode.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine it not have being in popular culture, you know?
Yeah, me neither. Because so I also I read this fact. And then I double checked and I was like, oh, this is actually like true.
They have a Wikipedia page about it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like in episode blah 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 of Friends, they discussed it. And I'm like, oh wow, that's insane. Yeah. But really cool.
But I think there are things like this that we just don't think about. Also, listeners, please call me out if this is wrong, but I think the high five was invented in like the 70s or something.
Really?
The high five. Before that, people didn't high five.
That is so weird.
Which is insane to
I
think
should
about.
ask my dad, like my dad and my mom, because they were born like before the 70s.
Do you think they're going to remember not high-fiving? Or the first time they ever high-fived?
Maybe.
Because I think, yeah, when we were born, you just high-five straight out of the womb. You
yeah. Like, hey, I'm born. High five.
Which honestly, it's a high-fiveable thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you stole my friend's fact.
Sorry.
But lucky for you, I have another one. Yeah, I thought it was so nice. Look, again, I'm just in love with this episode. I'm sorry. Forget your crushes on Chandler and Joey and Rachel and Monica and Phoebe and everybody. My crush in this episode is the episode. I just think it's brilliant. So my friend's fact for you is that all of the music in this episode, the ones they do in between the scenes, etc., are all played on acoustic instruments rather than electric, because we're in a blackout.
That is so fun.
That's so clever.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool.
Thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah, they really thought about it, because I didn't realize it at all. But you need to know that to like appreciate it. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
I really love that.
So if you haven't yet watched the episode, then go watch it and appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you, for your 27th round.
Yeah. I will
that.
now pay attention.
So many fun facts.
Yeah, so many fun facts. But if we're talking about music, then I also have to quickly mention the Phoebe song about the dairy.
Oh, brilliant. Can you sing it for us?
I have to look up the lyrics. The dairy song by Phoebe. I'm sure there is some type of lyrics.
I do have it. I wrote it down.
You have it?
I would prefer you to sing it.
But if you give me the first line, and I'll probably remember.
New York City has no power.
New York City has no power, and the milk is getting sour.
But to me,
it is not scary, because I stay away from dairy. I love that.
Wow.
La 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 la. I love that song.
Look, Christine, we're already on Spotify. So I'm just saying, if you wanted to upload your covers,
no, please no.
There's
no
hope
one
for you.
No one will listen to that, to my squeaking. No.
Speak for yourself, because I will. Yes, so we have now moved on to the next part of this scene, when Ross works up the courage to speak to Rachel. But before he can confess his feelings, a stray cat attacks him. Drama.
Yeah.
So of course this scene starts with Joey trying to stop Monica from going outside, which honestly is a good bro move.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't let the sister interrupt the magic happening on the balcony. And then of course Phoebe revealing everyone's secrets. You know, when they announce that this is all because Ross is planning Monica's surprise birthday party, and she's like, why am I the last one to know? I was the last one to know when Chandler got bitten by the peacock at the zoo. I want to see that episode.
Me too. I'm very curious about that, but I don't think we will, sadly.
No. And she says, I was the last one to know when you had a crush on Joey when he was moving in. Ha! She spills the secrets.
Ooh.
Funnily enough, actually this is lore within the Friends universe.
Yeah.
So this joke about Monica having a crush on Joey when they first met, this was actually part of the show producers' plans when they were developing the show. The producers had planned for Joey and Monica to be the first couple of the show. So I called it in a few episodes ago when I was like the Bob Angela thing. I was like, I want Joey and Monica. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, you were right, but no, they're not a good match.
Well, that's clearly what the producers thought, because after Jennifer Aniston was cast as Rachel, it was decided that Ross and Rachel would fill that role instead.
Yeah, way better. But I also really love, because you're talking about like reasons why Monica should not go out to the balcony, and then Joey just gives the reason because. The reason.
That's a good reason.
And then he just looks at her like, that's a good reason. Yeah, but like, what kind of reason is that? Like, come on.
But now I can't get over the fact that, like, you made a comment previously that the boys in general are such bad liars.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, they really are.
We get it here again.
So now we move out to the balcony, and this is like such a funny scene, and I do think this might be the reason why David Schwimmer got an Emmy Award for this episode, maybe? Because just the whole scene with the cat on his back.
So funny. I also love the setup for this scene, right? Like Ross is about to, reveal his secret, and he's like, oh, I have something to tell you. And then Rachel's like, ah. And the viewer, we think that she knows what he's going to say, but no, it's because there's a little cat behind him.
Of course. And then,
so cute.
Of course he says like, oh, look at the little cat. And then it's like, oh, and then the cat jumps on. But I really love this scene, like how, of course, you see then the friends just sitting inside and not noticing at all what's going on outside. And then you can see Ross on the balcony, like fighting with the cat. And so funny.
Yeah, the three of them singing inside, and he's just flailing around.
Yeah, it's so funny. And it's very obvious that it's like a
fake cat.
A fake cat.
Thank goodness, because that would be animal cruelty.
Yeah, for obvious reasons. But I think he's just like so funny, like moving around and then like shaking it off, and just really, really well done. So
maybe that was the Emmy nomination point. Yeah, very good.
He was very, very good.
Well, actually, there may be an additional reason why they used a fake cat. I mean, not just because they would have PETA after them, but also David Schwimmer is allergic to cats.
Oh, that's also a good reason.
So he probably shouldn't have one crawling around all over his shoulder.
No. Let's not do that.
But I think somebody who would want something crawling around on him, that was a weird segue, was Chandler back at the bank. He's there with his girl, Jill, well, not his girl, Jill Goodacre, and she offers him some chewing gum, which leads to him choking and Jill saving his life. So, well.
I do like Jill because she's a woman of action. Like immediately when Chandler is choking, she like, you're choking, and then does the Heimlich move. And I think
impressive.
Yeah, it's impressive, definitely, because some people would be like, what's going on? Freezing. And she's like, action, let's do it. Like,
do you think every Victoria's Secret model is taught the Heimlich?
No.
Why not?
Why would they?
Why would they not?
I don't know. It's a weird discussion. I don't know. I don't think so.
Christine, gum would be perfection.
Gum, yeah. He has some great quotes here.
That's a great line. I would embroider that on a cushion. Look, if we ever have merch for the pod, gum would be perfection.
We would sell gum, and then the brand would be gum. No, the brand would be perfection, and then like the phrase would be gum would be perfection.
That's some very weird grammar, because then
okay, maybe no.
Gum is perfection. Gum Perfection is gum.
Perfection is...
No, you know what?
Oh, no.
Side note, who would you want to be stuck in an ATM vestibule with? And we all know the answer is Jennifer Aniston. But
Yeah.
assuming she's not available, Christine.
Mr. Heckles. No.
You know you can choose anyone.
But yeah, I don't know. Probably my sister, my twin sister,
Aww.
or something. What about you? Who would you choose? 'Cause I have no idea.
Your sister. No. I mean, come on, it's got to be Beyoncé. We have a history.
Yeah, maybe she still knows you. Who knows?
I have a feeling she wouldn't recognize me if she saw me on the street. Who would I want to be stuck in an ATM vestibule with? Someone interesting, for sure.
Yeah.
Someone who's got a lot to say. Beyoncé. It's gonna be Beyoncé.
Or no, I have no idea who. There are too many possibilities and too many. Maybe a singer, because she can sing to you and you can just sit there and listen.
Do you know what? I feel like, well, that's why I chose Beyoncé.
Yeah, that's good. Actually,
I don't think she's gonna do that. If she's stuck in an ATM, like Christine, as we've established, loves a good sing-song.
Yeah.
I feel like the last thing, if Beyonce was stuck in an ATM vestibule with me, she would want to put on a private concert. But you never know. Beyonce, look, I know you're listening. If you're out there, you wanna make this happen, we can get some good behind-the-scenes content.
Yeah.
And also, wouldn't that be fun for when I ask you, what would your week be called if it was an episode of Friends? And you could say, the one where I was stuck in an ATM vestibule with Beyoncé. That
would be really, really cool. Really cool. To get back to the scene, of course, the thought of course, Chandler spits out the gum and then puts it back in his mouth to then choke on it. Just the thought of him grabbing the wrong gum and then chewing it gives me the shivers.
Well, I thought this was actually a mistake because I saw that they had all of these like pieces of gum on the counter and I was like, oh, that must be previous takes and he spat it out. Because like, what are the odds that it's going to be exactly the same color as the gum that you're eating?
Yeah, true.
Because that was pink gum as well.
Yeah, it was all pink gum. But that's why he also mixed it up. Maybe Jill's there just all day just handing out gum
to people.
Yeah. Who knows?
Whoa.
That would be creepy.
Maybe she is.
So, meanwhile, Rachel and Phoebe search for the cat's owner in the building. Whilst Mr. Heckles claims it's his cat, the owner turns out to be a new Italian neighbor named Paolo.
Ooh la la.
No.
Mr. Heckles, yeah, it's mine.
He's mine?
Yeah, it's mine.
Oh yeah, it's mine. Bob Buttons. I really love that name. But I love Mr. Heckles. He's my spirit animal.
That says a lot about you, Christine.
Yeah, if I grow old, I would love to be like a creepy old grumpy man. A woman.
Wonderful. When will this podcast be? You're just channeling your inner Tobias today.
Yeah. Nah.
Grumpy old man. But well, we know him as Mr. Heckles. Mm-hmm. This episode does not. He's credited as the weird guy.
That's rude.
Yeah, well, as I said, the writers, they were just not going to give anybody a name if they didn't need one. We had the horrible woman, we had the director, and now we have the weird guy.
The weird guy. That's rude because he is a little bit weird. And he has a very weird...
He's very weird.
He's very weird and he also has very weird furniture, but he's cool in a way.
We don't know his furniture yet,
Yeah, not yet. But we will learn later in a very sad circumstance. But anyway, I love Mr. Heckles. He's fun. I like him.
Well, some more love happening is Rachel and Paolo in the corridor. Again, it's just so well done. She's... honestly, I was scared. I thought we were going to have a jump scare.
Yeah.
When she's walking through, like, with the candle and looking for the owner.
Because he looks creepy there. Like, he's just standing in the dark, like, looking at her, like, slowly crawling up on him. Like,
yeah, maybe he should have said something. But look, English is not his first language. Maybe he didn't know what to say.
You could have said, Scusi. This is my cat. Sorry, that was horrible.
And you just lost all of our Italian listeners.
That was really bad. It's Scusi, right? Or
Scusa?
Scusa. Bella. That's it.
Okay, perfect. I'm sure Rachel would have the exact same reaction if it was you there standing and doing your best Italian. But yeah, beautiful how she just like breathes the word wow and extinguishes the candle. So well done. Guys, give this episode an Emmy. I don't care if they're not doing Emmys for
episodes.
Shows that have been aired 30 years ago. It deserves it.
But I think they give Emmys to people and not episodes. Or maybe there's an Emmy for an episode. I have no idea. But
I think there's Emmys for shows.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll give it to Friends. Okay. I'll give it to Friends.
Me too.
But Rachel is giving Paolo to her friends. She brings him back to the apartment, much to the chagrin of Ross, who tries to explain that he and Rachel are a thing and Paolo should back off. Oh, but that does not end well.
Nope, it does not end well. No.
Rachel and Paolo are already very, very friendly. Like, my gosh, she's all over him.
Like, she goes really fast. But maybe this is kind of like, how do you say that
rebound.
A rebound guy from Barry. Because, she walks in with his, like, the arms in each other. And like, oh, this is Paolo. Like, oh, hi. But then every female loves him. Because Monica also is like, Paolo introduces himself to Monica and then to Ross and to Joey. And then Monica says, hi, just 3 times.
I think it's the exotic vibe, you know? Especially the fact that he doesn't speak English. It just makes him more exciting.
Yeah, more mysterious. Like, you don't know what he's thinking or like what he's saying.
Or even what he's saying. Yeah. But what was really great about Paolo is that Cosimo Fusco, he actually improvised all of his lines. So the directors just told him to say something in Italian, and he decided that he was going to make them relevant to what was going on. So I have the translations here. So when he introduces himself to the friends, he says, "Hi guys, I just moved in and I live on the floor below this, so I guess we'll see quite a lot of each other."
Nice.
When Rachel introduces him to Phoebe, he says, "Phoebe, you're gorgeous too. If you're all this beautiful, I'll move right here."
That's cute in a way.
And then when he and Rachel are looking out the window, he says, "Look at the moon, look at the stars, look at everything that's beautiful."
That's nice. But Ross's interpretation of this is blah 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 blah.
Which, that's what Dutch sounds like to me, so.
Oh. Well.
Aww. I'm sure it would be very romantic if you were in this setting.
Yeah, the man.
But then, do you know what? Well, Ross does, or as Paolo calls him, Ras, does attempt to speak his version of Italian, which I thought was very, very funny. So when he's trying to say, like, me and Rachel are this thing, back off, he says, "Do you ceviche?" Which, from my extensive Italian knowledge, it should be "Do you capisce?" which means "Do you understand?"
Then what is ceviche?
Ceviche, it's testament to the writers. Ceviche is a seafood dish.
Oh.
So it is a thing in Latin America and Caribbean cuisine. But they found a word that sounded a little bit like the real Italian word and just made it very funny. So
nice. I didn't know that.
Beautiful. But back to Monica being so thirsty for Paolo. When Rachel's like, "What am I doing? This is so un-me." And Monica's like, "If you want, I'll do it."
Yeah. She is like going for it, definitely.
Well, I mean, Rachel did. The end of this scene, my gosh.
Yeah.
You met 2 minutes ago and now you're just making out.
Yeah, but the end of the scene is like pitch black. But then, of course, before this, like the last candle is going out. But this little tiny candle still gives like a bunch of light. And when it goes out, it's suddenly pitch black and the moon has also disappeared. Because then it's like pitch black and no one sees a thing. And then, of course, the lights come back on and then you see them kissing. But it's like weird that
It was a blackout and a lunar eclipse.
Yeah, at the same time when the candle went out.
Yeah. And also candles 30 years ago were just way more powerful.
Yeah, maybe.
Inflation. They don't make them like they used to.
No, maybe. So finally, we return to the vestibule, where after a few fun hours, the light comes back on and Jill goes on her merry way.
Off to hand out gum to the remaining residents of New York.
Who knows? But I loved Chandler again in this scene, like the way he presses up against the glass, like like the only way he can do it, because it's so typical him, like just the way he poses and then his look and like, oh, Jill, like going away.
Jill, I'll have forgotten about you by the next episode.
Yeah, we never see her again, but anyways,
they couldn't afford her.
No. But yeah, lovely end of the episode.
Yeah, and how he begs for the security footage from the camera. So we spoke at the beginning, would the door have been locked? We decided no, that's not how they work. However, if the power was out, the camera wouldn't have been working.
But the wait, when she gives him a kiss,
technically that is once the lights came back on.
Yeah, but then of course,
so they would have got the kiss, but the whole other interaction.
No.
It wouldn't have, he wouldn't have been able to show it in context to the friends. It would just be like, why is Jill Gittaker
just giving you like a random kiss? Yeah.
Random. But to be fair, that's probably the part that he would want most of all for his own personal enjoyment.
Yeah. Oh, God.
So, yes, I'm sure Chandler can get by with just that 10 seconds of beautiful Jill.
Yeah, but maybe, you never know, maybe the camera was rebooting, so it might have not even been recorded, so who knows.
Don't tell him that.
No, we will not tell him, we'll send it, we'll tell him that the video is on its way, and then he can still enjoy it.
Well, let's hope this episode recorded. I don't think we had any blackouts during our recording of this podcast, because, Christine, I think this might be my favourite episode so far. I really enjoyed the one with the blackout.
Yeah.
I thought it was very, very funny. I thought it was beautiful. I loved every scene. I loved Matthew Perry's acting, how it's all going on in his head. And
David Schwimmer as well.
Yes, with the cat.
Yeah.
So my final thoughts on this episode is just, it was a hell of a lot of fun. As you can tell, like, I just feel like I had so much energy talking about it. And I'm going to give it 8.9 out of 10.
Yeah. Just as IMDb.
Indeed.
Nice.
Indeed.
Yeah, for me it was also a very good episode, but I did miss kind of Chandler with the dynamic of the group. I would have loved to see his reaction to Paolo, but maybe we'll see that in the next episode.
Ooh la la.
Maybe. So
maybe we will, and by then you'll be fluent in Italian.
Who knows? I did do Duolingo with Italian, but I didn't. I lasted like 3 months. But I have already forgotten it. Like, io sono Cristina. Is that correct? Oh, nice. Okay. I was like full muscle memory.
Say it with confidence. Yes.
Io sono Cristina. Ciao.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, I want to leave this episode with one question for our listeners. And I already asked you earlier, Christine, but I'm wondering if our listeners were trapped in an ATM vestibule with someone, who would they like it to be?
Yes, please tell us. I'm very intrigued to hear your choices, so maybe I can change mine still.
Give her some ideas. So you can let us know your answer to that question, or any comments that you like, any thoughts on the episode, feedback, trivia. We love to hear it all. You can let us know on Instagram at FOFPodOfficial, or
through our email, which is FOFPodofficial@gmail.com.
Indeed. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Absolutely. And don't forget to tune in next time, where we'll be chatting about Season 1, Episode 8, the one where Nana dies twice.
Ooh.
Interesting.
I feel like our listeners should rate us twice on every platform.
Yeah.
Just give us 10
I'm not sure if
stars.
that's possible, but we can
log
try.
back in as many accounts as you have. Ratings and reviews do really help us, and share this show if you're enjoying it with your friends. We want to build our Friends of Friends community along with you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in today. We will catch you in the next episode.
And until then, take care, and I just have to say, I love you, Mr. Heckles. See you next time.
So creepy.
Bye.
Bye.